Next, there is a slight digression in Preface to Lyrical Ballads. Now he would be commenting on the status of writing in his time and age, or the writings of his contemporaries, and he calls their writing style and their thought as trivial and mean. He also says that people during his time have been writing a poetry without purpose, and he stresses the fact that lyrical ballads which he has written is written for a purpose, and the purpose, he explains at the very beginning, was to give gratification and satisfaction to the people, what he expected me to write from them and what he expected me to exclude. So I have written it as per that purpose. And he says that if anyone finds this statement of mine erroneous, if someone finds this collection of poetry, lyrical ballads, as a collection of poetry without purpose, then I will not call myself a poet. Now, after this slight digression and slight comment on the status of poetry and poets and writing of his times, he moves to the next section where he would define poetry. And he says that poetry is the spontaneous overflow of powerful emotions recollected in tranquility. Now he says that poetry is about spontaneity, are the spontaneous emotions. But he says that these spontaneous emotions are not like a revelation, they are not revealed, but that spontaneity is created by a long and deep contemplation of a poet over the subject that he wants to write. He says that no writing, no poetry has ever been written or has existed which has not come from a deep thought of a human mind. A person has to think deeply about a subject matter, has to contemplate about a subject matter. Only then can he develop that spontaneity which would later result into the writings of into a writing of poetry. So this definition of poetry by William Wordsworth is very subjective in nature, because it includes the emotions or the spontaneity or the feelings of a person, of a poet, which are subjective in nature. This definition of poetry was later refuted by T.S. Eliot when he wrote Tradition and Individual Talent, in which he would define poetry. Poetry is not letting loose of emotions, but an escape from emotions, is what T.S. Eliot says about poetry. It's not an expression of emotions, but it's an escape from the emotion.